Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks have named the first squad for 2024, but it's not exactly what you think. What do I mean? Well, let me explain. Now, the Springboks obviously have the series against Ireland coming up, as well as a game against Portugal, and then they're into the Rugby Championship against New Zealand, Australia, and Argentina. So this is the first alignment camp. Rassie Erasmus has invited 43 players to the first alignment camp after World Cup in 2023. The group includes 39 local players and 4 Japan-based stars who are currently doing rehabilitation in South Africa. So they're not abroad, they are in South Africa. Now, what this alignment camp is a 2-day boardroom session in Cape Town where both the new coaching staff, who we'll discuss in a little bit, and all of these new players are going to get together and go over their plans for 2024, how they're going to take on the Irish, the Portuguese, the All Blacks, and then the Aussies. Now, the squad that Rassie and the Springboks have announced is slightly strange. There's 19 members from the 2023 World Cup squad, 16 uncapped players, so 16 brand new players, and then 27 capped international players that didn't go to the Rugby World Cup. And the new coaching staff, which includes Tony Brown, Jerry Flannery, Yaku Paper, and Dwayne Vermeulen, are all going to come to Cape Town for 2 days, get to know each other, and go over their plans for the 2024 season. The focus is on getting everyone on the same page for the 24 season and building the foundation. Now, what Rassie has said about this camp is that it's included experienced and non-experienced youthful players so that the older guys can let the younger guys know exactly what happens in the Springbok camp, show them the processes and the systems, and really get them started off on the right foot. Now, what we're going to see when we have a look at the squad is that there are a couple of absentees. I've seen on Instagram and Twitter people are asking where certain players are, like Siya Kolisi, like Cheslin Kolbe, like all those stars from the Rugby World Cup. Well, the overseas-based players who have club commitments will not be making it to this first alignment camp. So all the guys over in Japan, like Damien De Allende, all the guys in Europe, like Siya Kolisi, they won't be able to make this camp, but you still do have the leadership in the form of Eben Etzebeth there. Now, as we get closer to the time where the tests are going to take place in July, there are going to be another 2 alignment sessions. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of a thinner squad so that we can get a better idea of who exactly Rassie is thinking about taking in to that series against the Irish. So now that you have the details about the camp, let's go over the squad. I'm not going to go over the players that played in the Rugby World Cup and the players that have already been capped. I think it'll be more interesting for me to go over the uncapped players. Maybe you're not as familiar with those players as a Faf de Klerk or Handré Pollard. Now, out of the 43 players squad that has been announced, there are 16 uncapped players which we're going to go over. So starting with the forwards, and there's some really exciting prospects on this list. Neetling Forshia, who is maybe not a newcomer to South African rugby. He's 31, he plays for the Stormers and he is a prop, but he has been in some seriously good form for the Stormers at the moment, getting a couple of man of the matches, and we will continue to see him lead out that Stormers pack and be very dominant up front. Now, what you will see is that there are 4 new hookers. Now, if you think back to the World Cup, there were a couple of problems in the hooker position with Malcolm Marx getting injured, Bongi Mbonamba getting injured, Deon Fourie is super old. So it does make sense that they're bringing in a whole bunch of new hookers. The first one, of course, being Johan Grobler, plays for the Bulls. Marnus van der Merwe plays his rugby for the Cheetahs. He's 27. Jan Hendrik Wessels, also a hooker for the Bulls, so bringing both of the hookers for the Bulls. And then Andre Hugo Venter, who plays his rugby down in Cape Town for the Stormers. So it is interesting to see where Rassie's head is with that. We're going to need some more depth in that hooker position over the next couple of years, building into 2027. Then probably one of our strongest positions is that lock position. So they've only brought in one newcomer, that being Ruben van Heerden, 26, plays his rugby for the Stormers. I think anyone who doesn't support the Stormers might not know exactly who he is, but he plays some decent rugby. He probably won't make the squad just given the locks that we have, but it is good that we're starting to get him into the cycle of the Springboks. Moving into the loose forwards, there's some serious talent. Let's start with Ruan Venter, plays his rugby for the Lions. He's only 21. Then we move over to the Bulls, and there's 2 very impressive forwards there. Cameron Hanekom, who's been making headlines as sort of an up-and-coming loose forward 8th man for the Bulls, will probably be playing for the Springboks Springboks within this year. I expect him to be one of those guys who make it through the alignment camp into the squad and start playing a couple of games just before the Rugby Championship, because he's only 21. But his teammates, Gumere, he's 23, also a loose forward. We've seen him play 8th man, we've seen him play flank, also explosive, big ball carrier. So perfect for the Springboks. So those are all the newcomers in the forwards position. Some very, very good loose forwards, a whole bunch of hookers. It's going to be very interesting to see who makes the squad in a couple of months' time and who falls off just a little bit. Let's move in to the backs now. Now, what they've done with the uncapped players for the backs who they've brought in young, explosive, and a lot of utility backs, if I can say it like that. Firstly, let's start off with Sasha Mgumazulu, who is probably one of the rising stars in South African rugby at the moment. He's classed as a fly half, but I think he's more of a utility back. We've seen him play inside center for the Stormers. He's only 21. He can probably play fullback as well as the wings. He's a very Damian Willemse-esque type of player. He can basically do it all. Then staying within the Stormers, another very, very exciting prospect is Suleiman Hartzenbach. He's 20. He can play wing or center. Another sort of utility back. Also a very, very deadly player in that Stormers lineup. We know the Stormers have a very, very good back line, and he makes up one of them. Then moving on into the Lions, we've got Jordan Hendrickse, who plays flyer for the Lions. To be honest with you, I'm not too sure why he's there at the moment. He is a very, very talented fly half, but I just don't think he's at that level yet. Obviously, we still have Andre Pollard, we have Mani Leborg, we have Damian Willemse. There's still plenty of fluffs. Yes, he is young at 22, but for me, I don't know. I'm undecided about Jordan Hendrickse. Let me know what you think in the comments, because they've also brought in Sanelo Nohomba, who plays for the Lions as well and is actually starting above of Jordan Hendrickse at the moment. And Nohomba's actual position is scrum off. So for him to be starting at fly off Jordan Hendrickse coming off the bench is a little bit weird to me. Maybe they're just giving him some exposure. But Nohomba is one to watch. He can play fly off. He can play scrum off. Not that South Africa needs more scrum offs, but he's very, very talented. And I would love to see him get a cap for the Springboks. Then we've got Horn, who also comes from the Lions, plays fullback for them, very physical, very good under the high ball. And then also from the Lions, we have Morne van der Berg. He's 26. He plays scrum off. He can also play fullback, but he has been playing scrum off for the Lions, with Nohomba playing fly half, and then Horn is at the back with Jordan Hendrickse coming off the bench. Staying in the Lions, their outside center, Henko van Wyk, also a youngster, very, very powerful. The Lions obviously producing some world-class backline players at the moment, but that wraps up the newcomers for the backs, the uncapped players. We've now gone through both the uncapped players for the forwards and for the backs. I think there's some great talent both in the forwards, especially the loose positions, and in the backs. It's going to be interesting to see the squad that Rassie goes forward with after a couple of these alignment camps, but that is so far what we can tell you from the Springbok camp. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave this video a like.